Medway Council has set its budget for the next year, allocating how it will spend around £330 million. Councillors voted for a budget which has protected all the major services to the public in a time when other authorities are being asked to make drastic cuts. The council funds more than 140 services for almost 270,000 residents in Medway, including weekly bin and recycling collections, adult social care, education and children's social services, and looks after Medway's roads and parks. Deputy Leader of the Council, Cllr Alan Jarrett, said it was vital frontline services were not cut in the budget.
Well, I think the first thing to say is that there's been no cut to frontline services. We've had to work very hard to find innovative ways of saving money, and we've managed to achieve that. We've managed to maintain all our services. In fact, we've managed to find ways of actually investing in some of the services to improve them. So I think overall it's a very good news story for Medway.
How difficult has it been to set this budget in terms of funding that the council receives from central government?
Well, that's been the crucial point actually, the reduction in grant, the revenue support grant as we call it. That's been a major thing we've had to grapple with in terms of the size of the reduction, 9.6%, but crucially a further 14% reduction predicted for next year, in fact guaranteed for next year. So what we've had to do in building the budget, we've had to take account of the cuts that we've experienced, but also to be aware of the cuts that are to come. So we've had to work hard at building a budget that's sustainable and that give us the best chance of bridging the budget gap next year.
There will be a rise in council tax of 1.99%. That's the equivalent of about 44 pence a week for those in the average Band D property. Cllr Jarrett explains why the rise was necessary.
The government has offered and has been offering a freeze grant, but I'm afraid two flaws of the freeze grant. One is at 1% of the equivalent of council tax is inadequate, particularly against the backcloth of falling grants. And the second thing is it's a non-recurring item, so were we to take the freeze grant we would just delay the day when we would have an additional pressure. So what we've decided to do is to put into the budget an increase in council tax of just under 2%. That will bring in an additional £2 million, which will be in the base budget, so it will be a recurring item that will help us with future budget pressures. And I think that sort of level of increase is quite acceptable, particularly in terms of Medway's position as having by far the lowest council tax in the whole of Kent.
But, Cllr Jarrett says, there are many positives in the budget.
The last time we increased car parking charges, we took account of residents' concerns about that, and although our car parking charge rates are some of the lowest in Kent, we agreed to freeze charges for a 3-year period. And what we did, we looked at that again, and we managed to extend that freeze for another 2 years. So there'll be no review of car parking charges in Medway until 2017, and I think people will appreciate that. That will help both shoppers and it will help the trade as well to bring more people into Medway, and hopefully they'll come in and they'll stay longer. We've managed to increase the amount of free parking at Christmas that we've provided before. We've managed to double that, so that again will be very important, both again to shoppers and the trade. And our free swimming that is being funded in the base budget, we've actually increased that to under 16s. And again, I think that will be well appreciated, and it was one of the things that we've actually been asked for by some members of the public, so we managed to do that. There's also a number of smaller elements of spend, such as paying for apprentices to work on the Medway Queen, which as most people know is one of the Dunkirk little ships, and a few other smaller items that all are important in their own way.
£100,000 has been set aside to fight the estuary airport plans. Can you tell me about that?
Well, yes, each year over the last 2 years we've allocated a sum of money to help with the employment of consultants, to help with professional lobbyists, to help with advisors, technical and environmental advisors, to help try and show people what a ridiculous proposal that has been coming forward from the Mayor of London, whether it be an estuary island or an estuary airport, And of course, as people now will undoubtedly be aware, the latest iteration is an airport on the Isle of Grain. Quite clearly, the Mayor of London is able to spend vast sums of money, multi-million pounds, on promoting these schemes. We don't have that sort of cash to throw around, and even if we did, it wouldn't provide good value for money for Medway taxpayers. So what we've done is cost out a number of actions that we need to take over the next year to help combat the Isle of Grain proposal. That amounts to £100,000, and that's a one-off allocation in the budget. Now, quite clearly, when we get to the budget next year, we'll have to see where we are with the estuary airport idea, and hopefully by then it will be consigned to the scrap heap once and for all. But if not, we'll have to take stock at that time and see whether we need to do more.